Hello and welcome back to Skypothesis. We are two brothers who believe Skyrim to be an endlessly replayable game and love pushing the game to its limits to create characters with unique aesthetics, immersive roleplay, and engaging gameplay. We draw inspiration from all across the world of fantasy to create these characters, and we're excited to share a new build for Skyrim's Anniversary Edition. This is the Briar Witch, a member of a high elf coven sworn to serve Perryite, the Daedric prince of pestilence and disease. The Anniversary Edition really expanded what is possible for mages and will be combining several Creation Club spells together to create a hybrid witch of occult spells and necromantic rituals. She will use the new spectral summons, life-leeching spells, a poison-spewing thrall, and other tools befitting a Perryite-worshipping witch. We've had this build brewing in the cauldron for quite some time now, and it's great to finally share her with you all today. So without further ado, let's jump into the backstory of the Briar Witch. Each Elder Scrolls game has Daedric cults scattered in hidden corners throughout the land. We don't know too much about the Somerset Isles in the 4th era, but we imagine they have their own hidden covens and Daedric worshippers. So to start this backstory, we are imagining a secret coven of witches who worship Perryite. This coven has roots which date all the way back to the ancients who came from the mythical continent of Altmer. Hidden deep within the forests, they've gone unnoticed for most of their multi-millennia existence and only gained some unwanted notoriety when they helped the Slodes spread disease-ridden undead into Somerset. The specifics are lost, but many rites and rituals have survived through the eras. They lived isolated in nature and celebrate the rotting sicknesses of the world that represent the natural cycles of life, death, and decay. Every year during Rain's Hand, they make circlets of flowers jovially dance about their briar-wrapped totems. In this coven, all witches are infected with grotesque green skin. When they come of age, they go through the ritual of the Briar Ascension to become a host to Perryite's blessing. But as they wrapped the thorny vines around the young Briar Witch, nothing happened. They were dumbfounded. The poisonous vines should have infected her easily, but somehow she was immune. Initially, she is embarrassed and disappointed as she desires nothing more than to serve Perryite like all her sisters. She doesn't know it at the time, but her immunity to Perryite's blessing is due to her dragon blood. The Coven Matron petitions Perryite on the 9th of Rain's Hand, Perryite Summoning Day, and their Daedric Lord appears in the form of a great spectral rodent, and tells her to send the failed ascendant north to Kyne's land, where all will be revealed. Her journey north took years. First, she had to assimilate into normal culture and secure passage. She traveled by boat to Breville, then from town to town, caravan to caravan. She slowly completed her long pilgrimage across Cyrodiil. She initially missed her coven, but her time on the road gave her ample opportunity to reflect and find a new perspective. She wasn't a dishonorable exile, she was commanded by her lord. What better purpose could there be? Her loneliness transformed into a quiet determination to always stay loyal to Perryite. When she arrives in Skyrim, her lack of knowledge for local law is apparent when she is caught illegally crossing the border. When she's spared from execution by a dragon attack, she interprets it as direct fulfillment of Perryite's promise that all will be revealed. Events unfold with her escape leading to an immediate task from the local Jarl, which leads to the revelation of her dragonborn gift. After hearing from the Greybeards, she pieces together that she does not have elven blood, and thus could not be infected with Perryite's blessing. The College of Winterhold is the easy first stop so she can learn to become a mage. Under the tutelage of Finis Gestor, she gravitates to necromancy and quickly advances. Raising undead is useful, but most of the time she prefers to use spectral summons or subjugated ghosts. She is not the only mage to do this. Ranavig's Fast features Sild the Warlock, a necromancer who has bound unwanted souls to do his bidding and guard his lair. Ingvild is home to Arendil, a necrophiliac who has subjugated the ghosts of several women of Dawnstar. So we know this is a seldom used but existing specialization within the greater study of necromancy. Her ghosts include some of her former coven ancestors who aid her willingly, but we'll talk more about the summons in the spell section of the video. She is intrigued by the child bold enough to hire an assassin, intrigued enough to help him out. A kid like that is destined for great things. To her surprise, the Dark Brotherhood was very much aware, and extends her an offer to join. She is a neutral evil character who does not care for the lives of others, but doesn't necessarily go out of her way to cause harm. But when she does so coldly and with no emotion. This helps her become a natural assassin for the Dark Brotherhood. It's a convenient way to earn coin for her study of necromancy and collect bodies to summon as undead. A win-win all around. While searching for Esbern in Riften sewers, she stumbles upon Scritch, the pet skeever. According to lore, all rat and skeever souls are claimed by Peryite. So for this build, Scritch is more than just a pet. He's a thematically fitting choice, and he represents Peryite's participation in her quests. He scavenges for food, and with the animal pack he has 80 pounds of inventory storage. She lives alone with her skeever in Anis's cabin. It seemed to be a good choice for a hidden witch hut, living away from society in a forgotten stretch of forest. Here she can safely pursue her magical crafts and live quietly. She spends a great deal of time in the wilds, fishing and appreciating nature. Her perspective is different from other naturalists though, as she worships the diseases that lead to death. All are part of the cycles of life. When she picks up a disease such as rock joint or ataxia, she doesn't cure herself and considers them a penance to show devotion to her lord. All things must live and all things must die. Anything that refuses to die is rejecting the decay that must claim all living things. Vampires, dragons returning to life, and the dragonborn Mirak who has lived far longer than he should have. Anything that doesn't age simply isn't right and must be destroyed. Her disregard for the lives of others technically makes her evil, or at least sociopathic, but this callousness doesn't come from any source of hatred, but from an extreme reverence for the natural order of life and death. This eclipses any value she places on the lives of others. Now let's talk about quest specifics. The most important moment in her story is Peryite's quest, The Only Cure. It begins early by running into the afflicted refugee in the wild. He notes her lack of fear, and she notes his discolored skin immediately. With hope, she asks if he's ill, thinking there might be local worshippers. But she's disheartened to learn the local cult has been cut off from their lord. Even though the quest starts early, it's important not to complete it until your conjuration is maxed out, so you can raise a thrall. We want the failed shepherd or Chendor to be her thrall. The Briar Witch laments that her dragon blood makes her immune to Peryite's blessing. So she keeps undead Orchendor around as her plague host, forcing him to fulfill his duty to Peryite even after death. Fortunately, he's one of the strongest thralls in the game and frequently spews green vomit on enemies between blasts of destruction magic. After officially becoming Peryite's champion, there are still ample opportunities to roleplay quests from Peryite. Daedric lords have rivals and allies, and Peryite's biggest rivals are Boethia, Mephala, and Vermina. So to ensure their influence on Mundus is limited, she destroys the Skull of Corruption at the end of the quest Waking Nightmare, as commanded by the Skeever. Vermina's influence is cut off completely, and Peryite has gained victory and influence over his rival. She is urged by the Skeever to ally with Molag Bal to rob Boethia of their minion Logroth. Let Boethia's servant rot in Cold Harbor. She makes sure Mephala's influence on Tamriel remains limited by keeping the ebony blade unused and then abandoning it in the cellar of her witch hut, ensuring it's even less likely to be found than in the dungeons of Dragon's Reach. Dealing with these Daedra extends Peryite's influence and power. We know from lore that Peryite is considered one of the weakest Daedra, but the Briar Witch knows this isn't true. He is just too busy in Oblivion fulfilling his role as the Taskmaster, keeping proper order between realms of Daedra and fixing realm rips, which can happen when mortals and Daedra exert too much will. Since this keeps him busy, he doesn't have as much presence in Tamriel, but the Briar Witch knows he stands the most ready to easily wipe out all life on Tamriel with a single plague from his breath. With this perspective, the Briar Witch must act as Peryite's hands to prevent and mend any rifts that open between Oblivion and Mundus. She must keep Mirak and his forces within Apocrypha. She secures the borders of the Shivering Isles by killing the Manic Mage trying to break them down. She prevents the Mythic Dawn from allowing the forces of Mehrunes Dagon back into Tamriel by entering the Deadlands and sealing the gate. Even Alduin popping in and out of Sovngarde at will is an affront to the natural order. Peryite is not only the god of pus and bountiful vomit, but is the lord of natural order, and sometimes order requires harsh correction. Moving on to spells and shouts. At full power, she will have Orchendor as her plague host, Thrall, and her other minion will be a death priest, which tends to stay more in the background, raising fallen bodies as undead minions. We imagine this Death Priest to be an ancient dragon priest of the Scalecaller dragon cult. She will support her summons with necromantic healing and join in the combat with the new life-leeching destruction spells from the Arcane Accessories pack. As a rule, we're not using elemental destruction at all. It's not thematically fitting, and the drain health spells can be roleplayed as a rotting sickness, sapping enemies' life away. She will also use all of the other spectral summons added with a necromantic grimoire, depending on the situation. These include Undying Ghost, Haunting Spirit, Tomb Guardian, and Cursed Specter. These can all be bought from Finis Gester depending on your progression, but we like to imagine the Haunting Spirits are dead members of her old coven, since they wear matching flower crowns. The Tomb Guardians summon an additional spectral minion when they land a killing blow, making them a great option for the mid-game when you don't have the Death Priest, or even for tight spaces when the Death Priest isn't as useful. The Cursed Specter uses Poison Cloak and Drain Health abilities, a skeletal minion that the Briar Witch created to have another way to spread Periite's blessing. We didn't include alchemy in this build, as her minions are more than strong enough for adept difficulty, but you can use the Atronach Forge to create Conjurer's Potions, which increases the duration of summon minions. This is made with empty wine bottles, ectoplasm, and any soul gem. These are common enough when you keep an eye out for them, and are worth hanging on to. Though primarily a necromancer, she also studies restoration for healing spells, wards, and necromantic healing. Poison Rune can be fun for the roleplay, and we do feature it in the special move section, but we rarely used it in general gameplay since enemies were usually dead from her aggressive minions before it had a chance to do anything. For shouts, she uses Drain Vitality for its plague-like damage over time, Animal Allegiance to shout at skeevers to reveal yourself as their lord's champion, Become Ethereal to get you and your low health pool out of harm's way, and of course, Summon Durnavir, the ultimate necromancer. Before moving on from spells, we have a couple more things to mention about Orchendor. Sometimes it just isn't worth it to keep him around. NPCs will constantly comment that spell looks dangerous, and we've even had it break quests. You can easily dismiss him by summoning 2 spectral minions and keep his body lying around at home. We recommend creating new saves regularly, not just quick saves, as things can happen and you can easily lose track of your thrall. Having a recent save to reload helps immensely since you can't predict everything that's going to happen with Thrall AI. Now let's discuss creating the character. She carries the amazing Staff of Sheogorath, which launches a unique paralysis spell in a wide area of effect. We're mainly using it as a way to deal with being overwhelmed and to allow her a moment's reprieve when she needs to resummon her undead ghosts and minions. It's a fitting choice as Sheogorath is Periite's ally in Oblivion. Start the quest to obtain it by reading the mysterious note in the Retching Netch. She also carries the Fang of Hynectamid, useful for situations when she needs stealth kills as it has higher base damage than even the Dragonbone Dagger. This is given to you by swims in deep water after completing the quest Fishing Legend. We decided not to use Spellbreaker, even though it's a reward from Periite himself. She prefers to keep it safe as her most prized possession. It just didn't fit the gameplay or vibe of the character. For her outfit, she wears a blend of unique and self-enchanted pieces that we are calling Celebrant's Garb. The Wedding Wreath cannot be enchanted, but she doesn't need the extra power, and it's best in slot for aesthetics. She wears the Robes of the Lich, obtained at the end of Ghosts of the Tribunal questline. The robes boost magicka regeneration by 150%. She enchants the rest of her gear with Resist Fire and Resist Shock on her boots, Fortify Magicka and Fortify Sneak on her gloves, and a gold ring and amulet both enchanted with Fortify Conjuration and Fortify Restoration. We love the way the aesthetics of the robes, crown, and brambly branch of her staff come together. It's much more colorful than a stereotypical dark-hooded necromancer. Life, death, rot, decay, and pus-filled wounds all have color. Moving on to stats and perk spread, she has a ratio of about 3 in magicka to 1 in health, but we did prioritize magicka initially until hitting 300. After that point, we started splitting perks into both health and magicka. We want a massive pool to cast her summons when needed, especially if they're dual cast. For the Standing Stone, we picked the most fitting for a necromancer, the Ritual Stone, which is especially useful if the situation is not conducive for your Death Priest to raise undead for you. For her race, we picked High Elf for their Highborn ability and the amazing plus 50 boost to magicka at the start. By the time you hit level 40, you will want the following perks. In Conjuration, take the Novice through Master perks, both perks in Summoner, Dual Casting, Necromancy, Dark Souls, and Twin Souls. In Enchanting, take all 5 in Enchanter, Insightful Enchanter, Corpus Enchanter, and Extra Effect. In Restoration, take Novice through Adept perks, Dual Casting, Regeneration, both perks in Recovery, Necromage, and Ward Absorb. If you play this build effectively, you don't take very many hits, so Restoration is primarily used for wards and dual casting necromantic healing on your undead. In Destruction, take Novice through Expert perks and dual casting. Since we're not using Elemental Destruction, these are the only relevant perks for the new Absorption spells. Finally, in Sneak, put 2 perks in Stealth, Muffled Movement, and head up the right branch to get the perk Assassin's Blade. These level 40 skill trees are just a checkpoint, and you'll have the flexibility to further flesh out any of these skill trees with more perks as needed. At higher levels, Illusion would be the next skill tree to work into the build. Additional perks you'll want to seek out are Mora's Boon, which replenishes your stats once per day, Seeker of Shadows for the extra 10% boost to stealth, Secret of Protection, which halves all physical damage received for 30 seconds, Lover's Insight for 10% extra damage and better prices from men, and finally, Sailor's Repose for the 10% boost to healing spells. Alright, moving on to our favorite part of each build, the special moves. In this section, we like to combine gameplay mechanics to create singular moves unique to each character's gameplay. Her first special move is called Rite of the Ancient Sentinels, which is a combination of the Altmer racial Highborn ability plus 2 Undying Ghosts. These ghostly warriors cost your entire magicka pool to summon, and have stats equal to double the magicka spent to summon them. Highborn allows you to rapidly get your magicka back and summon a second warrior. These two are insanely strong once you hit their cap of 300 magicka. Up next is Arcane Tether, which is the combination of Greater Ward, Ward Absorb, and the Staff of Magnus. This is useful for taking down dragons or breaking through the shield of enemy mages. The magic absorption from the Staff of Magnus allows you to keep your ward up for much longer. Next is the unique curse from her coven, Celebrant's Rot, which is a combination of Poison Rune, the Drain Vitality Shout, and Touch of Death. These are 3 damage over time effects stacked on top of each other, which we imagine to be her blessing them with a plague of rot, rapidly decaying the mortal flesh of her opponent. What better fate than to greet death via the beautiful decay of her Lord Periite? Finally, we have Rite of the Scale Collar. With this move, you will have an ancient death priest to summon the fallen bodies as your necromantic horde, and your necrotic ally Durnavir will summon skeletal minions from the Soul Cairn. Depending on the battlefield, it can be difficult to line all of these mechanics up, but when they synergize, things become beautifully chaotic. As the enemies start falling, it snowballs into a bizarre and diverse horde of minions to do your bidding. And with those special moves completed, we are ready to wrap up the Briar Witch. This build has been a long time coming, and we're so excited to use it to kick off 2025, the year of Skypothesis builds. We will post a new build on the first Friday of each month this year, so stay tuned. We will also post weekly shorts to summarize our previous 41 builds in the weeks between releases, so stay tuned and join our Discord to be part of this growing community of Skyrim appreciators. We also wanted to give a shout out to the amazing Vince Vept for his incredible composition Lady of the Lake, which we used in this video. Head over to his channel and give him some support. And if you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe to keep the magic of Skyrim alive. We'll see you next time, right here on Skypothesis.